welcome you all in ABC News Television's program Discourse. In this program, we used to discuss some of the top issues, international politics, diplomacy, and so on. Today, we have a special guest, Professor Dai Yonghong of Sichuan University, China. Professor Tai has been associated with Sichuan University as a professor, as a department head of the international relations. He has been in Nepal for many more times as a visiting professor of Tribhuvan University. He has also been worked with some of the reputed universities of the world as a visiting professor, especially on the issues of China. Let us welcome Professor Tai to ABC News studio.
Okay, thank you. It's my pleasure to be at ABC News.
Professor Tai, the relation of Nepal and China has dated back some 2000 years ago. And some of the historians of Nepal now are in research that the relation of Nepal and China is 3,500 years.
Yes.
During the time of Manjushri. China and Nepal has a formal diplomatic relation of 63 years. In 1955, Nepal and China have signed formal diplomatic relations documents. During the years, both the countries has been proved as very good neighbors. So at that condition, how do you observe the present day Nepal-China relations?
Yes, as you said that the long-standing friendly relationship between China and Nepal has been dating back to more than 3,000 years ago. And even since this former diplomatic ties was established on August 1st, 1955, so 60 years has been passed since then. I would like to say that the China-Nepal relations has been always maintaining a very friendly and in a good manner, whether it is in the monarchy period or in this republic period. Regarding this current China and Nepal bilateral relations, I would like to say it is actually in the best period of time, particularly since September and October, when Chinese President Xi Jinping initiated this BRI. So I know that Nepal has signed MOU with China on May 13th, 2017, to implement this BRI, to be one of the 67 member countries under BRI.
Nepal has reached a political stability with a government of two-thirds majority after a long time of critical stage of political transition. Since China is in favor of stable neighborhood, and is this respect, how do you read the situation?
Yes, I'm very glad to see that after a long few decades of unstable, particularly one decade of unstable political situation, Nepal has come to a stage of the most stable political situation with the merge of two communist parties and the establishment of a new Communist Party of Nepal. Actually, with this, I just would like to say it's a giant step for this Nepal in the right direction. Actually speaking, just one day after this merge or establishment of these two political communist party, I wrote an article and got it published in your newspaper, Republic Daily. I pointed out that this is the giant step with in the right direction because Nepal needs a strong political party and strong political party leadership to mobilize the national resources to focus on the economic agenda of development for Nepal, and so that Nepalese people can benefit from the development so that they can enjoy better education opportunities and better health conditions, and so more business opportunities both at home and abroad.
China is advancing for world economic superpower, and at that condition, what Nepal should do to strengthen bilateral ties with China in short, mid-term and in long term?
Yes, I would like to say that China is rising power politically and economically, but I don't think that China is going to be a superpower. As our Chinese President Xi Jinping always said that China will never seek for the position of hegemonic state as just a superpower. We are rising power, but Chinese rising is a peaceful rise, and is sticking to the principle of peace and cooperation, openness and inclusiveness, and of course under BRI we would like to say under the principle of mutual learning and mutual benefits. So in this regard, as China has become the second largest economy since 2011, surpassing that of Japan, China yes, has been shouldering more international responsibilities to help our neighboring countries as well as the countries in African continent, in Latin American, and even the European countries. We are working together to build a better future of this world. So you mentioned that how can Nepal benefit from the Chinese economic development? I would like to
in the short term, in mid term, and in long term.
So in this regard, I would like to say in the short term, as Nepal has already signed the MOU with China under BRI, I think that BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, was Chinese proposed initiative, but it has already become an international consensus. And more and more countries are taking international actions to coordinate or cooperate with China to get it implemented. So, and by the end of the day, it will become an international benefit. So this is actually an opportunity not only for Nepal, but also for the neighboring countries. So Nepal, I would like to say, Nepal is a landlocked country between these two rising economies, China and India. So I have an idea. Traditionally, people describe this geological position as a yam, or between two giants, or a rock between two giants. But I would like to say Nepal could be a diamond between two largest economies in Asia, is particularly in this region. So in short term, BRI is an opportunity for Nepal. Nepal could seize the opportunity and to integrate its national agenda of economic development with Chinese proposed BRI. And for the long term, I think that whether Nepal should look south or look east, look north, what I mean is that maybe Nepal needs to look global, because in long term, maybe not only look east, look south, but also need to look north, and even look east to ASEAN countries. Maybe look west to connect with Pakistan and some Central Asia countries, so long as the partners, the Nepalese partners, can bring its benefits for Nepal and its Nepalese people. So I think in long term, just look global. In short term, seize the opportunities brought by the BRI. That is my understanding of this.
Is there any concern of China in Nepal?
No, I don't think that China has a particular concern about Nepal. As I mentioned that China and Nepal has been maintaining a very friendly bilateral ties since establishment of official diplomatic ties in 1955, whether in monarchy time or in the current republic period.
Yeah.
And so we trust each other with the more increasing political trust, and this traditional solid foundation laid out by the past generations of our leaders, such as Chairman Mao Zedong and the Premier Zhou Enlai, and of course the current generation of new leadership under President Xi Jinping.
Yeah.
And you also, whether it is in 1950s in your
King Mahendra.
Yeah, King Mahendra, and
King
then
Virendra.
yeah, King Birendra.
Yeah.
Yes, because I stayed in Nepal for more than 3 years in the middle of 1990s, and when I met your former king Birendra in the royal palace when he was tickered with
Yeah.
us, I think that there's no particular concern, I think. Yeah.
But China always has a good relationship with the establishment, either in political party or monarchy in Nepal. But in the last 5 decades in Nepal, politicians, the political parties, or the institutions in power, like monarchy, has often tried to play China card against India, and sometimes India card against China. Do you think it is useful strategy?
I think that diplomatically speaking or politically speaking, to play cards, to play one card against another card is a common practice of the countries or a government. But really, as a matter of fact, I think it can take a risk to play cards with one card against another card. So, particularly speaking regarding this, what you mentioned in the past 5 decades,
Yeah.
different Nepalese governments or even parties or institutions in power try to play Chinese card against India or
Yeah.
play India cards against China. I think, as you see much better than I do, these strategies could sometimes work, but most of the time, I don't think that it's a long-term strategic policy choices because to my understanding that China could not be a card, or even India cannot be a card, because Nepal is an independent and sovereign country, and you have your independent policy making process and with the sovereignty characteristic. So it would be better just to seek a policy which can bring the maximum advantages to Nepal's independence and sovereignty. So I think if a country's policy decision making is relied on playing cards, maybe it's just a short term. You see, I don't think that the facts you mentioned is fully right. Maybe some political analysts are observing this way, but from my observation, I think that Nepalese governments, whether in monarchy state or in republic, they are, generally speaking, they are in this well-managed policies towards China and India, maybe, right?
Since the Qinghai-Tibet Railway has now reached Sigatse, the nearby city from Nepal. Sigatse is already linked with the Chinese railway, and China has a plan to stretch the railway into Nepal border. The Nepalese government, especially this last time, Prime Minister K.P. Oli has proposed to extend the railway into Nepal. China has accepted the proposal also. Because people in Nepal are hopeful that China's economic growth and the economic development of Tibet will help Nepal. What is your opinion about this?
Yes, I think that connectivities between Chinese Tibetan Autonomous Region and Nepal is very important for the mutual benefits of both China and Nepal. As you know, that there is nearly 2,000 kilometers of common border between Chinese Tibetan Autonomous Region and Nepal. So, and I actually I remember very clearly just 10 years ago, nearly 10 years ago, at least in early 2010, when I met top leaders of Nepal government and some of my friends or businessmen here, your government has been initiating connectivities strategies with China. At that time, we called this transit economy strategy. Transit, just because, as you know, geographically speaking, in Nepal is a country located between China and India, so Nepal can play a bridge or connective point role in bridge or connecting China and India together for the common benefits of the three countries. So this under BRI, I remember very clearly when Prime Minister Oli visited China the first time 2 years ago. He came to our university to deliver a speech. It impressed me a lot that he mentions he highlighted the importance of this infrastructure improvement and the connectivities between Nepal and China. And this time, when Oli visited China the second time, and his last stopover was to Lhasa to focus on this proposal to extend the railway networks from Chinese Jakarta to the border city Keelung, and then maybe from Keelung to further extending to Kathmandu. I think it's a very good policy option for Nepal to connect with Chinese railway network so that your economy can be diversified with one more or two more, even multiple trade points with China. So you have more diversified, and that is economic diversification, as I mentioned right now.
The ancient Silk trade route connecting Asia and Europe. Now, the agenda for this century, as President Xi said, the agenda for this century, that is Belt and Road Initiative. Some 67 countries have already joined BRI, but still many more people don't know, general people do not know about BRI. From your perspective, what are the fundamental features and objectives of Belt and Road Initiatives?
Yes, very good question. I think that just as I talked a little bit about that this BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, was proposed by Chinese president. It is a Chinese proposal, but it is not purely belong to China. It's not Chinese monopoly. It belongs to the world. We just a Chinese proposed initiative. It has become an international consensus, as you said, that nearly 67 countries choose to join in this initiative and signed MOU with China under BRI. Now, so it has become international consensus, and more and more countries have already taken international actions to get their national agenda of development integrated with Chinese BRI. And so I'm sure, I'm very confident that by the end of the day, it will become international benefits. So to summarize the main features of BRI, because it's international, it's Chinese proposal, but it's international consensus, international actions, and international benefits. It can only be realized by the joint efforts of all the member countries. So that's why Chinese president said it should be coordinated, joint coordination, and jointly build and jointly benefit, jointly beneficial. And actually, this BRI has highlighted the importance of five priorities, which can be summarized as these 5 connectivities, as President Xi Jinping said. First is policy coordination, is policy connectivities, because we need to coordinate these national or international policies together. Then the second connectivity is the infrastructure connectivity, including both physical and social connectivities, such as roads, bridges, airport, port facilities. And second, the third connectivity is the trade connectivity, to facilitate trade with the member countries, so that the trade and investment can become much easier and much more efficient. And the fourth is the financial connectivity, which means that we need to integrate the financial resources, because the BRI is a project-driven initiative. It should be project-driven. So, but every project needs to be financed jointly. So that's why even with this AIIB, Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, we highlight the importance of the joint cooperation with other regional and international financial institutions, such as the Asia Development Bank and also the World Bank and IMF. So lastly is the people-to-people bond, the people-to-people connectivity, which means that we need to understand each other better. So as for example, today we are doing this people-to-people and culture connectivity together by telling these main features of BRI. So BRI is, to summarize, BRI is a trade and investment proposal intending for not only the neighboring countries with China, but also for those countries interested in joining them. So in a word, the BRI has been sticking the principle of peace and cooperation and openness and inclusiveness and mutual learning and mutual benefits. This is key to my understanding.
Nepal, as you told, Nepal being a signatory of the BRI, is seeking for the promotion of trade and investment cooperation, as well as connectivity with China through Belt and Road Initiative. In your opinion, Nepal should do to fulfill the expectation, its expectation, own expectation?
Okay. As we know that Nepal has signed the MOU with China under BRI, to get the BRI projects implemented. So I think in order to fulfill the full expectation of BRI projects, I think 3 points can be done. First one is just to have a policy coordination with China in terms of its measures. How can China and Nepal work together to formulate concrete policies and measures to get these agreements implemented first, because we have signed dozens of agreements during Prime Minister Auni's visit to China in 2016 and 2018. So dozens of agreements in the field of transportation, education, health care, and so on and so forth. So the first one is the policy coordination. The second is that both China and Nepal, particularly Nepal, should adopt consistent policies in this the right direction. That is to say that they have their laws and rules and regulations be adopted to match with the standards of the projects, such as if the BRI projects needs to be implemented, it should meet the requirement of the Asia Infrastructure Development Investment Bank, AIIB. And of course, China, of course, will consider the most favorable conditions and policies towards Nepal, considering this specific example of Nepal, because different countries have different national conditions for that. So number third is that the benefits should be enjoyed by both Nepal and China. So China, the reason why China stressed the importance of mutual benefits, the principle of mutual benefits, is because that only by mutual benefits can the projects and any cooperation be sustainable. I think the 3 points is very important.
Don't you think that the implementation part of Nepal is poor?
I think that it is improving because it takes time. The other day, some journalists asking the same question, whether I'm satisfied with this current implementation of the BRI projects. I should say that every project needs to be implemented sufficiently and efficiently. Yeah, because once you sign the agreements, you need to seize the opportunity and work in the right direction. And sometimes you need to tolerate or to how can I say, just to understand or to counter the external pressures, so long as you choose to do the right national policy, right directions, because in the process of implementation, it's very natural for you to face challenges and difficulties, and if you easily choose to give up, that doesn't work. Because I think I should tell you that if you ask me what are the most successful experiences for Chinese miracle over the past 40 years, I should tell you one of the successful experiences for Chinese miracle is that no matter what difficult situation we are facing, internally or externally, but our ruling party, I should say, the most successful ruling party in the world, just lead our country to face the difficulties and pressures. Right, in 1980s, in 1990s, and even after China enters the new century, or by joining the WTO, a lot of challenges and difficulties facing Chinese ruling party, Communist Party, but we just want to face it and overcome it and work for the benefits of our Chinese people. That is courageous and stronger party leadership and government governance and good governance are the most important things for this. Just as I said, good governance and political unity and economic diversification are some of the major tasks facing Nepal.
So what should be the development priority of Nepal according to the Chinese experience? It is loan, it is based on loan, it is based on grant, or any other technical cooperation?
And I think economically speaking or technically speaking, the three you mentioned the three kinds of cooperation, that is loan, grant, or technical cooperation. I think that Nepal should choose a combination of the three modes of cooperation, whether it is a loan or grant or technical cooperation. It will depend on the specific conditions of each project. It cannot be said that all the projects can be done in one form of cooperation. Or, for example, this the construction of infrastructure and between China and Nepal, and you cannot say that all the financial resources will be from China.
The proposed railway from Kerung to Kathmandu, there is a huge debate about the investment.
Yeah. So I think that, it's not only, as I said, that usually the big projects with large financial resources demanding. So usually you can easily cause debate whether this country, this hosting country, can tolerate, compare this financial burden. So consider this fact that the projects need to be done both in the market way, market principle, as well as to, I think, because grant may be for some projects, but for loan, most of the project and technical cooperation, it should be a combination of this. As I said, this AIIB encourages the mutual cooperation with the regional or international financial resources. China has also experienced a time when China has been one of the largest introducers of foreign direct investment. So many multinational companies invested a lot, and China got introduced the loans from World Bank and IMF. So we have also experienced in this period of the 1980s, 1990s, but gradually China has become one of the largest OFDI or provider of this foreign direct investment. So with the increasing of Chinese financial resources, so there are a lot of arguments or debates about Chinese loan to the neighboring countries. So I think that there is no there is no any concern for that, because as you know, China also experiencing that time. The other day, I even cite an example to show that whether you should get loans from the bank to finance yourself, just like two families. Lady A, after her graduation, she takes a job and starts to think to buy a house on mortgage or on installment. And so after 40 years of time, when she gets the year of 60s, so she has, during this long process of 40 years, but she enjoys the life in the big house, good environment, and get married, and then he pay back the money. But Lady B, he just, after graduation, he just save money. He doesn't want to buy a house on installment or on mortgage. He just keeps saving money, saving money. So at the day when she gets 60 years old, 40 years old, finally she has got enough money to buy a house. Which lady do you prefer, Lady A or Lady B? It's just like the economically speaking or financially speaking, the same principle. Because if you don't get any loans or from the other foreign country, you will miss the golden opportunities for better and faster economic development. It's true that for China, it's true for Nepal. So some countries just over-exaggerated the serious consequences of Chinese increasing loans to the hosting country, but think it over. When the Western countries started to provide loans to China, they never said that. But when China started to provide loans to our neighboring countries, they raised this question. So it's not logic. It's not logic, right?
Thank you, Professor Dai, for having this wonderful interview with ABC Television. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.